What is up, everybody? Today we are going to talk about just being focused on what your spiritual practice is. So a lot of lately I've been seeing people make videos basically just bashing other people that use online resources and books to teach them, about their new spirituality, new spiritual path, I should say. I think that's ridiculous and it's not okay, mainly because a lot of us, when we started out, whether we left Christianity, whatever thing we left, we decided along the way that we wanted to start over new, right? So the first thing that we did, because this is all we knew, was go to whatever books that we are whatever piqued our interest, whether we wanted to learn more about crystals, whether we wanted to learn more about an ATR, witchcraft, whatever practice, whatever pantheon, whatever, we went out and we got books to learn and study, right? Now, along the way, we probably also found different people, different accounts that we, spiritual influencers, etc., that we look up to for knowledge, insight, and guidance. Now, listen, one thing you need to remember when it comes to spirituality, even though you may have someone that you look up to as a mentor or as someone that has a lot of spiritual knowledge that has been doing it for X amount of years, that does not mean that you completely forget the fact that you're the blueprint. You are literally the altar. Regardless of anything, I think something that we shouldn't forget is the fact that we have the ability to tap into ourselves spiritually to learn more about whatever practices, our ancestors practiced and whatever resonates with us. Because a lot of the times, and I've even seen this too, I've seen Black people that wanted to learn more about the Greek pantheon and work with those deities and things of that nature. And it's like people get bashed for that. And it's like, oh, well, you're Black, why aren't you practicing any type of African traditional practices? Like, what's wrong with you? To that I say, mind your business, because one, it's not an easy thing to get into. Like, if you're trying to get initiated, if you wanted to practice an ATR, that requires money off the rip. To look for a godparent is expensive, and then on top of that, to find a godparent that is not trying to steal your money or claim to be a babaloa and all this other stuff, it's hard to find a good mentor. Not saying that you can't find one online, because you can, depending on who you follow, like on Instagram, TikTok, things of that nature. They do offer mentorships, but you always want to do your research. But more importantly, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Even though that sounds so cliche, it's true. One thing that I learned, so essentially when I started, practicing, of course, I started with books, learned from books. Then I began to curate my timeline, meaning I started to unfollow people that weren't aligned with me. Anybody that did not align with me or what I believed in, I got rid of them. And I filled my timeline with things that I wanted to hear about, something that's going to uplift me, people that were on the same path as me, that had the same, I don't want to say we both had the same understanding as far as belief systems are concerned. We both, understood that. So I had to basically figure that out for myself, because I didn't want to fill myself with things that weren't aligned, if you get what I'm saying. So after that, I began to find different people and listen in on lives and join. That's why it's very important. And this is just off topic, but if you have a business and your main audience is whatever your audience is, you want to get out in front of the people and showcase what your skills are, your talents, and genuinely just connect with your audience, because that's who your tribe is. So when I got to a point where I found found my, niche, I guess you could say, of people, things just started to get more aligned and it got easier. And when I tell you, your ancestors and spirit will make a way for you to find people that are on the same path as you, find a mentor, they will align you accordingly. So never worry about whether or not you'll ever be able to find a mentor, because everything is always done in divine timing. Whether or not you feel like, okay, I want to do this right now. And trust me, I understand that. But sometimes it's just best to let things play out the way that they should. But essentially, once I got all of that together, I ended up finding during that time for that year that I was basically a student. One thing I want people to understand is we are all forever students. I don't care what anyone says. If anyone that is, I guess you could say, a spiritual guru that has a God complex to them that makes it seem like they don't have more work to do, or they know an infinite amount of knowledge, run. Those are the type of people that will run off with your money, that'll claim to be your mentor, claim this, claim that. You want to be very wary of those types of people. But I'm not saying that, not to look for a mentor or not to do your research, because it's people out there that are actually mentors. So when I was doing that for a year, it ended, but currently at this time, since of course everything has its own timing and everything has its own season. So of course I am eventually going to find another mentor so that I can expand my knowledge. I'm not saying that you need to have be attached to a certain coven or a certain mentor to learn, because honestly, your spiritual team will guide you and tell you the things that you need to know. I mean, of course, there are things that you don't know. You can't beat yourself up for the things that you don't know, because obviously you don't know. So I would highly recommend doing research, continuing to read. If you can't get a mentor right now, I would recommend finding someone that you trust as far as spirituality is concerned. Find them and join whatever forums, whatever Discord is like a forum basically, but join their Patreon, whatever it is that they are offering. I would say definitely start there if it's something, because Patreon, depending on who it is and what the subject matter is, Patreon, it could go up, but it can range from the lowest level tier could range from $5 upwards to $10-12. It just depends. But if anything, I would say Patreon would be a good start for learning. Definitely continue reading your books, definitely continuing to follow those that align with you and how your path is. Don't get caught up in looking for a mentor. Don't get caught up in having to stress yourself out oh my God, I don't have a God parent. Oh my God, I don't have a mentor. I don't have this. It's okay. It is okay. It is not the end of the world. Your spiritual team will guide you to where you need to be at the right moment. A lot of the times when we are just going about life, we forget that some things need to run its course in the background in order for us to be in the right place in the right time. So what you may see as the right place and the right time for you may not be the right place, the right time for the person you're looking to go for. Maybe you're supposed to be with someone else. You never know. So that's why I always say, let everything play out as it should. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. Be careful about who you work with when it comes to that. And just chill. Literally just chill. Because listen, I'll say this. When I first started going in the different direction opposite of Christianity, I wasn't very much at a place where it's like, okay, well, in my mind, why is it that I have to go through one person to get to source? I thought I could just go to source directly. And when I started to do more research, and then I got into like learning about the Orishas and different pantheons, things of that nature, it just seemed like, well, why do I need to go through them if I need to? But it's not how you think it is, I guess you could say. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to African spirituality, because obviously African traditions and African Americans in general, it's like things are copied, things are watered down, things are stolen. So that's why a lot of the times is, like, oh, they're gatekeeping. I mean, they're gatekeeping for a reason, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to find people that don't badger you because you're actually expressing what your experiences were. Like, I'll never forget, there's this one time I heard this one girl, she was like, this Orisha visited me in my dreams, or in my meditation rather, and people were just dogging her out. Like, why? Like, this is the thing. The way I see the Orishas, I see them as higher level beings, right? Like, they are more knowledgeable and have more insight into things than I would. That's how I see the Orishas. So my thing is, how is it that even whether you're a priest, priestess, etc., regardless of that, how can you speak for an infinite being like that? Not saying you can't speak for them, but how can you tell them what to do and how to communicate with someone that they've chosen, or they're looking to help? That's what always didn't sit right with me. They're going to reach out to you however they're going to reach out to you. My thing is, I hate that. People need to stop invalidating people's experiences with different spirits and beings and all that, and I also feel like it's disrespectful to the person that's actually expressing this to you, especially if they don't really know much about it. They're just asking you a question about it to understand. So I would say be mindful of those types of people. I'm not saying to not get initiated, but definitely do your own research on different things. Your practice is your practice, and how you go about things is how you go about things. Just make sure you're well informed. That's all. Because a lot of the time, these people don't want to, tell you what to do, because they want to gatekeep it or try to make you feel guilty for what your experiences are, which is so crazy and it makes no sense to me. So the main thing, own your practice, read, learn, listen to your spiritual team, and grow. That's the most important. With all that being said, I'm actually over on Patreon right now. I actually did a podcast today on this very topic. So I just wanted to give a little bit of the, just talk about it a little bit here. And I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the matter on Patreon. And aside from that, I also have different recommendations for books that you can read. I also do meditations, journal prompts for shadow work, spell work, depending on the tier that you select. So the spell work, and basically you have more access to everything if you have the magician tier, essentially. So a lot of the stuff that I provide on my Patreon is for everyone, not just for a certain practice. So with the 3 tiers that are on Patreon, it's the Hermit, the High Priestess, and the Magician. Think of it as beginner, intermediate, and expert. Essentially, each group of people, or level, I should say, they'll get something from it, and they'll learn what they're looking to learn. But it's basically, it just covers a lot of different topics. It's not just one thing or one aspect. You also receive spiritual guidance from me, including readings each month, as well as items from my shop at a discounted price and free shipping from moonstoneenergy.com. So it's definitely a very well-rounded service, and it's called the Gifted Academy over on Patreon. So I would highly recommend you joining if you wanted to learn more about like herbs, spells, different practices, and listen, one thing I don't do is not speak on things that I do not know about. And if I don't know something, guess what? I go and find the information, or I look to someone who is a resource for this said information. So don't ever think that you're not going to get something from the subscription, because of course you will. So I highly recommend that. If you would like to join, the link will be in my bio. But other than that, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.